Hi, future Cathy here. This episode is going to be slightly different from our usual episode because it was recorded in front of a live convention audience. I want to thank our show sponsor, BoardGameTables.com, and our Patreon supporters for making this episode possible. We had to purchase some equipment for this endeavor that we don't normally need to do a regular show, and we couldn't have pulled it off without their support. Thank you from the whole Our Turn podcast show team. We want to do this again in the future, and we have some ideas on how to improve, but we'd also like your feedback on this effort. Please send any suggestions, ideas, or constructive critiques to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Now, on with the show. It's Our Turn, episode number 56, ConQuest Avalon live show. Woohoo! In this episode, Sarah, Amanda, Mark, Frank, and I are at ConQuest Avalon in Sacramento, California, where we talk about community. Frank does a review of Nemo's War, and we play a game with members of the audience. Woohoo! Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our first panel discussion and live recording of Our Turn podcast. We're so glad that you all have decided to join us here today. We have a live studio audience for the very first time. Woo. So, yay. All right, so we usually start our show off by talking about what we've been playing lately. So, Sarah, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Ooh, I get to go first? Okay. All right. So I recently played Can't Stop with the Rolling Down the Highway expansion, which is quite interesting because most people don't know that it exists. I mean, people know about Can't Stop. It's a pretty common press your luck game that people know about. But the expansion does some interesting things. So let me go over how the base game works, just in case. You're pressing your luck, and you use the dice to choose different combinations to try to move up columns, and you're trying to lock out 3 columns. And the board has a column for each possible total of 2 to 6 dice. But the number of spaces in each column varies. So the more probable that the total is going to be rolled, the higher the column. So 7, being the most common number you can roll on 2 dice, has the most spaces to reach to the top. So on your turn, players roll 4 dice and arrange them in duos. So a 4, 5, and 6 can, for example, become 5 and 11. Then the player will advance these little white cones in the columns associated with those numbers and then choose whether they roll again or not. And when a player ends their turn, they're going to replace the white cones with cones of their color. A player can only advance 3 different columns in a turn and cannot advance a column which any player is completely closed out. Now, if your roll doesn't result in any legal moves, your turn ends, and that you've lost all the progress. Now, how the expansion changes things up is it adds 72 tiles that are placed on each space of the board before play starts, and they're put down randomly, face down, so you don't know what they are. When a player stops for their turn, they're going to check under the white marker, and if there's a tile, you flip it up and you resolve what that tile does. So there's several different ones. There's interstate markers that allow you to adjust your die rolls on future turns, which I like because I like dice mitigation or manipulation, which in the base game that it's not there. So sometimes it allows you to go further in the game than you would otherwise. Now, traffic hazards will force you to make another roll and match the number of that column, or you lose all progress in that column. A detour will make you move to the left or right column. So you could be going up one column and all of a sudden find yourself in a different one. Fast lane will move the white marker up 1 space, which is a nice little boost there. But a traffic delay, you'll have to move down 1 space. So you got some forward movement and some backward movement. Now the map will allow you to use the additional white cone that comes with the expansion for 1 turn on your next turn. So instead of having 3 cones, you'll have 4. Roundabout, you'll have to move your white marker up, left, down, or right, whichever way you want to go. And then there, unfortunately, is also a lost, where you got lost, and you can only use 2 white cones on your next turn. So I do like the base game of Can't Stop. It's fun, it's simple, push your luck, it's great. But this really adds a lot more to the game. It adds a bit of twist, especially it actually puts theme into the game because the Can't Stop has it's a stop sign, but it doesn't really have much in the way of theme. But this does because you really feel like you're actually traveling. And then there's a bit of a chaos because you don't know if you're going to actually end up where you were planning to go. So, for example, in the game that we played, I was moving up on the 9 column, but I stopped, hit a left detour, and then hit another left detour. So that put me in the 7 column. And then as I was getting to the end of the 7th column, I got also a left detour and then a +1. So I actually ended up finishing the 6th column when I had started over on the 9 column. So it's really wacky crazy, and it's a lot of fun. And that kind of level is not possible in the base game. So I give Can't Stop Rolling Down the Highway expansion a solid 5. And to compare that with, I think Can't Stop is a solid 4, but this expansion really adds to it.
Okay, so a 5 on our scale is buy it now.
It's not easy to find, though, unfortunately.
And a 4 is a good, solid game. So that's a positive review all over. And so this is Can't Stop
Rolling Down the Highway, and it's rolling without the G, that little apostrophe. So,
all right, fantastic. Amanda, what have you been playing lately?
So I went to Toys R Us recently, and I saw this game called 5 Minute Dungeon, which looked freaking cool. So I had to get it, and it's a casual cooperative dungeon crawler. And it has a very misleading title because it wasn't 5 minutes. Oh. It was actually 5 minutes per dungeon, and there's 5. So it's 25-minute dungeon crawler. Come on, retitle it. That lured me in, so it worked. But I mean, granted, that's still a short and sweet game, like in my book, because my recent short list has been like Risk Legacy or Pandemic Legacy or even Agricola. And it's like, I just spent 3 hours setting up my game. Like, I'm too tired to play it. Yeah, it's a fun game. 25 minutes is not bad. And it's a very social game, too. You work together against the clock. And yes, there is an app you download, which has a counter and the storyteller that is kind of guiding you through it, which actually just makes it crazy intense. And you're just like sweating and like, oh my God, like, So in my book, that makes it fun, but that also stresses me out because I can get stressed out pretty easily. But anyway, it was really fun. You go through a dungeon deck, only one. I mean, there's 5 total, but in the process, you have one that you're trying to complete. You encounter monsters, events, different persons, obstacles, and throughout the chaos, you must work together in combining cards to match the icons to defeat the monster, obstacle, etc. for each dungeon. It's kind of like mechanics because there's the primary colors, there's the icons, and you're trying to get rid of your hand and cycle through your deck. And I really enjoyed it. It was, again, short and sweet, very fun, especially for like casual players. So my family would understand it without me, sounding like I'm speaking in German to them, explaining the rules.
What, you can't teach them Agricola?
I think they would just pass out and just like, no. Also, the art is amazing too. It's very detailed, funny characters. A lot of references to Dungeons and Dragons. So those geek references is kind of playing, poking fun at itself. And the card tiles themselves, one side is a man and the other side is a woman, which I think is fun. So it isn't like an unbalanced, of characters. But I misunderstood the scale. So I always kind of say 7 if I really like it, which doesn't make sense to this scale. But I guess I would, in real terms, say 4 out of 5.
Okay, great. So good, solid game.
Very solid, very amazing. Everyone should try it out for sure. It's fun, especially for casual players.
Even though it says 5 minutes?
It's 25 minutes, all right. I'm going to complain to Toys R Us.
I don't think it was Toys R Us's fault.
No, but I want to be comped by them.
Yeah. All right, great. Thank you, Amanda. And Frank, what have you been playing lately?
Well, I went down to see some friends of mine out in Fairfield. Hello, Veronica. And I introduced her to a game called Dead Man's Draw. There's no real designer for this game. It was produced by Mayfair Games. And it also has a mobile component that was done by Stardock Entertainment. Now, what Dead Man's Draw is, it's a push-your-luck game with a pirate theme. There are cards that are placed out in the center one at a time, and each card is made up of a different suit. And each suit has a different ability. Some of those may give you a chance to sneak peek at the next card. Others may force you to play 2 more cards in the center. because if any of the suit cards match, you lose all the progress you've made and all the cards get put in the discard pile. Now, you can choose to stop at any time, and you can collect those cards, and you score points with the highest value card that you have in each suit. And some of the suits that come up when they come into play, they say allow you to choose a card from an opponent and put it into your collection, or maybe put that card into the play area. And there are other cards that if you can get a key and a chest suit together and then you choose to collect them, if you've, say, got 5 cards in the center, you can take the top 5 cards off the deck and add them to your collection for free. Now, it's a nice, fun little game. The iOS component plays very, very well. I do it a lot solo, and I've done it a few pass and play as well. And I definitely give this game a very solid 4. Fun game to play.
Excellent. Good job. And for my game today, I am reviewing a game called Dogs. I just took delivery of this. It was a game I backed on Kickstarter. And as people know, because I've talked about it on the show from time to time, I have 2 dogs, Sadie and Shasta, and they are my babies. So when a dog-themed game came out, I had to give it a try. Mm-hmm. So we sat down today to play this here at ConQuest Avalon, and we did what we call cookbooking the game, where somebody reads the rules, and then even though they've never played it before, they teach everybody else how to play it. And this was actually a fun game. Let me start by saying the artwork in this game is beautiful. It's a lovely game. It has a board with a city on it and then country around the edge. And you are playing administrators of a dog rescue. So in phase 1 of the game, you are sending your trucks out to pick up stray dogs, either in the country or in the city. The farther you go, the more gasoline you have to use, so that's a resource that you have to manage. When you bring your dogs back to your kennel, you have to manage where you put them in the kennel, because you have to put like breeds in kennels together. You can't put, say, a Rottweiler and a Poodle in the same kennel together. That's just not a good idea anyway, unless they know each other. And then you have to be able to feed your dogs. You have to be able to treat them if they have a problem, because some of them have a little medical cross on them, which means that they need veterinary attention. And you also have to be able to pay your assistants that work with you at the kennel. So this is all things that you have to manage. Then in phase 2, you send your assistants out to different places around the town to buy food for you, get gasoline for you, get medicine for you to use for your dogs. And so, again, you have to pay them at the end of that phase. So that's managing your money, too. You can also sell dogs. You find them a good home, of course. And you get money that way. You also have these cards along the edge. When you send your assistant out to these different places, you get access to these cards that can give you resources like money or food or medicine or gasoline. They can also give you the opportunity to train a dog or provide veterinary care for free or turn your assistants into volunteers that you don't have to pay. So there are lots of different ways to manage your resources there. Then at the end in phase 3, that's when you have to feed your dogs. If you can't feed your dogs, one of the dogs from each kennel space has to go to the vet area, and then you have to treat them. They got sick because you didn't feed them.
Poor pup.
Yeah. And then you have to pay your wages, and then you clean up the board, and you start again at phase 1, where you're going out looking for more dogs. We missed a rule when we played this. Uh-oh. As you want to do when you're cookbooking a game, and we learned after the game was over that you were supposed to get 1 coin of income at the end of every turn. So at the end of phase 3, one of the things is you collect your income for that turn of 1 coin. That would have made a huge difference in being able to play this game, because there were times where some of us couldn't send our trucks out to go look for dogs because we didn't have any gas. Aww. And once we got through everything and we got done, we couldn't feed our dogs because we had no dog food. So that would have made a big difference. But I do give this game a 4. I think it was a good, solid game. We had fun playing it. Once we have that new rule, that rule about the money in it.
It's kind of important.
Yeah, it's an important resource. Then I think it'll make it much more fun. But right now I give it a good, solid 4.
Not bad for running a poor kennel.
Now, Frank, on the other hand, was really good at managing his resources, and he had a pretty well-to-do kennel going on. So, yeah, I think I ended up winning that game, though. I did. Yeah, I ended up winning, and Frank came in second, and Mark came in third. So I think Mark had the poorest kennel. Yeah, but it was a fun game. It was a fun game.
Oh, very fun. I like the theme too, and I'm looking forward to playing this one again too, especially when we get that rule correct.
All right, and that's what we've been playing. All right. Next up, we're going to hear from Frank, who's going to do a review of Nemo's War.
Now, when I was growing up, I wasn't much into sports. In high school, I was part of the chess club. I sang in the choir, won a few awards, played Dungeons & Dragons, and I did a lot of reading. I was mostly into sci-fi and fantasy at that time. Ben Bova, Asimov, McCaffrey, Tolkien, Moorcock, and Jules Verne. Now, I remember reading 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea several times and being fascinated by Nemo and the Nautilus. Earlier this year, I ran into the Victory Point Games demo squad who were at Pacificon, and I had a chance to play test a board game of theirs that was based on the novel, and it's called Nemo's War, 2nd edition. It was designed by Chris Taylor and with art by Ian O'Toole, and it's currently ranked number 757 overall at Board Game Geek. Now, the 2nd edition, which was just released this year, is a much better quality production than the original version that shipped in 2009. There are now more than double the number of adventure cards. The overall art quality has improved greatly, and the board was redesigned and enlarged to have the majority of the information that you need easy to find. I found that after playing this a couple of times, I didn't need the rulebook at all, which to me is a very nice touch, and it adds to the replayability of the game. It also comes with tokens to represent warships, unknown ships, and other important markers, little small gemstones that I thought was a nice touch to represent hidden treasure that can be found, and also a small little 3D printed model of the Nautilus that's used to show your position on the board. Overall, to me, the opponent quality is above average, and the tokens are thicker than normal stock that you would find even for a war game. And the cards are large enough that they're easy to read, and since they don't get shuffled much, they don't really need to be sleeved. Now, in Nemo's War, you take on the role of Captain Nemo and assume one of 4 different overall game modes, or motives: science, exploration, anti-imperialism, or war. Now, while the goal of the game is to score the most victory points, each scoring aspect is different depending on which motive you play. Now, if you play on the exploration motive, which is what's recommended for your first game, if you sink warships or if you incite rebellions, they're worth less points than if you're playing under a war or an anti-imperialism motive. Now, I like the way that the game changes the value of your actions when you're playing under a different motive. While it's not a completely different game each time, it is varied enough that you have to shift your focus and plan out your moves differently depending on which motive you play under. Now, setting up the game is a moderately difficult challenge at first. The most important aspect is setting up your event deck, but once you run it through a few times, it becomes a very easy task. When building the event deck, you'll place special act and event cards that not only tell you how many dice to roll later in the game, but they'll also add more powerful ships. Basically, you're getting more notoriety, so more of the forces are coming against you. When you draw and resolve the finale card at the very end of the game, and there are several different ones, the game will end and you'll total your victory points. Now, the event deck setup sort of reminds me of Alhambra or Lords of Vegas, where there are specific cards that need to be placed in certain locations that ramp up the difficulty of the game. Now, what's nice is after the event deck is set up, the remaining cards are put to the side that you can spend extra actions for more things to do, sort of like looking for trouble in Munchkin. Also, there are 3 difficulty levels, so you can play an easier game that's focused more on learning the motive and how it interacts, to a much harder game where you start out at a fairly significant disadvantage. Now, each turn is played over 3 phases: event, placement, and action. You begin with the event phase, where you'll pull the top card of the event deck and resolve it. Some of those cards are held for a later time, where if you go to a specific ocean space on the board, you'll get a bonus action. Others you'll need to resolve immediately, and there's a very important aspect to a lot of these cards. There are 3 different ship resources that you have. You have the crew, the hull, and Captain Nemo himself. And you can risk those resources for a modifier on the dice roll to resolve the event. If you fail, you lose the resource. And that could be detrimental as well, because having a lot of those resources, depending on your motive, can be bonus points as well. There are also special named crew members like Ned Land or Professor Aronnax that you can exert, and if you fail, they die. But you get special bonuses that can even be used after the dice roll. So it makes a very interesting tactical decision as you go through the game. Do you expend the resource now for this and risk losing it, or do you take your chance on the dice roll? Once you've resolved the event deck, you move to the placement phase where more ships are placed on the board. Well, the thing about this is once you've determined by rolling the dice where the ships go, that's where you determine your action points for the third phase. The difference between 2 of the white dice determines how many action points you get. If you roll doubles, you gain no action points, and you have what's called a lull turn. You can use 1 carried over action that you may have, and it reduces the cost of other events, but you're limited to that 1 action. So there's a tactical decision as you go through as well. Do you save an action point? Do you risk it because there's an important ability that you want to do? Now, this game has easily moved to the very top of my solo list. The story is fantastic. The theme is amazing. There are quotes from the novel that are on the cards themselves. And even with the different motives and the 7 different finales, it's a different game every time. I can definitely see this game hitting the table many times in the future. Now, on the Our Turn podcast scale, I would definitely give Nemo's War a 4.5. There's quality components. Once you're familiar with the game, you very rarely need the rule book. And with the different motives and finales, there's a lot of varied replay. And that's my review of Nemo's War.
So, quick question for you, Frank. Mm-hmm. Is this a solo-only game?
This is primarily a solo-only game. There is a co-op, but it's more of only the captain, if you're playing multiplayer, only the captain can score points. So there's always a fight to who's going to be the captain. So it's part cooperative because the only way the captain score points is everybody to work together, but you also want to throw a mutiny and become the captain yourself so you can score points. So I definitely prefer this more as a solo game more than I do as a co-op.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any questions for Frank?
The art looks beautiful. I'm not a question, but
it is a fantastic game. Ian O'Toole really did a great job on the artwork for the 2nd edition. It's mostly the cards themselves, and the rulebook has more of a line art. The box cover itself is full color with the same sort of design, and it is just fascinating all the way through. Each of the event cards themselves have different artwork, and the finale cards as well. And at the very end, when you score your points, there's a special rulebook that shows, if you played war and you scored a near total victory, there's a full art with the description underneath it too.
Cool. Okay, great. Nice. Thanks, Frank. Good job. All right, next on our agenda is our hot topic. And for our hot topic, we usually we pick a topic and we have a panel discussion about it. And so for today, we are talking about women in games as a community and discussing what support means to us in this hobby. And we're not just talking about just the gamers or just the designers. We're talking about everybody in the community. What support do women need in the gaming community? And what support can men or anybody, other women, give to women in the gaming community? So I'll go ahead and start off the discussion. I'm the one that is in charge of the Our Turn podcast Twitter handle. And as such, I follow a lot of gamers on Twitter. And I find it just absolutely kind of flabbergasting when women are relating to, out to Twitter, the problems that they have had in the gaming community. I am flabbergasted because I game with a great bunch of folks, men and women both. I've not had problems that I see other people reporting on, being treated, like you're dumb or that you're not a real gamer, having their geek cred challenged. What games have you played and how heavy are the games that you've played and blah, 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 blah. And I find it absolutely flabbergasting that anybody treats anybody that way. But what I do to support the people that are reporting those things, whether they're men or women, is I make sure that they know that I believe them, that they're not just shouting into the void and nobody's listening. Now, Sarah, what has your experience been like?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I have had very few. I mean, I think back probably to when I was a teenager. I don't know whether we should excuse teenagers for just being teenagers or not, but I actually played Magic the Gathering, and that was not easy. Being a woman playing, or being a girl, being, 17, 18 years old, and I played it through some of college, and I'd be the only girl in the game store or comic book store playing Magic the Gathering, and I did not feel welcome. I mean, nothing overt ever happened. No one ever said anything specific, but I definitely got looks of like, okay, why are you here? Whose girlfriend are you? Because you must not really be into the game. And, after a while, I did get tired of it. After a while, all the looks and just the very unfriendly atmosphere is like, okay, I don't need this. I don't need this. I can enjoy this game at home where I want to. And then, I don't know, the modern board game hobby that I've been in for the last, 5 or so years, it's always been good. But I'm with you. If I'm on Twitter or Facebook and I see people post about a bad experience that they had, I tell them, hey, I believe you, like you said, and I'm sorry this happened to you. I hope it never happens again. And I share it. Because that's the other thing, is bringing awareness to bad things that happen. Because there are a lot of people out there who be like, well, no, that's not reality. Well, yeah, it's this person's reality. This happened to them. And they're brave enough to actually say something. Because most people are like, well, you've got to have proof. Well, I've seen these, I don't know what to call them, Twitter wars or whatever, where a woman says something and a guy comes up and says, well, that's not real, you're stupid or whatever, and probably worse. And they get into an exchange. Well, then when you go to report that guy, he's deleted all his tweets. So you still see all of her tweets, but not his. And then it looks like she's been harassing him. And then that's where he comes back. He's like, well, you got to stop harassing me. And there's guys out there that do this on purpose, and I don't understand that mentality, but it takes a community to come together to support each other and not allow those people to have a say, to have a hold on the community.
And the conversation.
So, and if someone says, yes, I experienced something bad here, believe them. Don't force them to have proof. I mean, really, people are not going to stand up and say, yeah, this person did something bad to me to try to make, I don't know, get attention or, anything from it. If something really happened, believe it. So that's what I do, is I just try to support others. And then other people, I feel like I'm supported too in the stuff we've been trying to do with the podcast and everyone coming together. So unfortunately, there are some bad apples, trolls out there, as you would.
And Amanda, what's your experience been like?
I think my experience is similar to yours, where maybe physically I haven't grown up, experiencing people kind of bullying me, testing if I'm a true gamer. I think it helped that my brother was a big influence on that. I grew up pretty close to him, and I just did whatever he did. I played whatever he played. I watched whatever he watched, and he had a solid group of friends that were very accepting of me. So I just kind of learned the language and the lingo and everything, and I just kind of adapted to that culture early on. So growing up, it just wasn't really a problem, and I'm a bit of a tomboy, and I just always have guy friends. But I encountered it more online, which is very unfortunate. If you play as a female character, you can just get harassed, just because you're a girl. Or you could get special treatment because you're a girl. And it's like, I don't want either. I don't want extra potions or extra things, or I don't want to be bullied. I just, try to play as a male character to avoid that, or try to have a handle that, doesn't make me seem like a girl, just because the anonymity of that can be very frustrating.
You have to hide who you are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and that was so weird to me, because it's like, I don't understand. Like, guys are always cool, if I play with them. That was just the way I grew up. And then as, a teenager, that kind of shifted to like, oh, you're a girl? Oh, hey, do you want all this stuff? Oh. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's nice of you. And it's like, well, now you have to, flirt with me. And it's like, whoa, dude. Calm down.
Back.
And then, it gets sometimes aggressive. There's harassment, there's stalking, there's, whatever. And it's just, yeah. So that's kind of my experience, that in the real world, luckily, I don't have to deal with that yet, but online it's something I kind of have to be very cautious of. I have to kind of hide.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think a lot of people, this is just the problem of the internet. People hide behind that ability to be anonymous, and so there's just terrible people out there in the world, and unfortunately they're in our hobby. And all I can say is that hopefully at some point they'll learn, and I haven't figured out how anybody can help them other than them helping themselves first. But so what we can do is help everybody else to avoid or, report people who are harassing, as much as the powers that be will actually take action.
Okay. And Frank, from your perspective in the gaming hobby, how do you deal with these things? How do you support others who are experiencing them?
For years, I used to run games at DungeonCon. I used to run RPGs and role-playing games. And there were several times that I would have people in my games, and they would say, well, why is that person over there? They don't know how to game. And I would pull that person to the side and tell them, it's my game. They know how to play. And if you have a problem, there's the door. They're here at the table. The table's an inclusive place. It doesn't matter what race you are, what sex you are, what orientation you are. It's a game, and it's for everybody to play, and it's an inclusive community, and that's one reason why I enjoy this community so much, is I can sit at the table with any person, teach a game, play a game, and have a good time, and none of that stuff matters to me. And if it matters to somebody else, I don't need them in my game, because that takes away from my enjoyment. So I do my best when I teach games, when I play games, to be as inclusive as possible. And if I see somebody who's not, I put a stop to it.
Right. And as we've seen from different reports in the news lately, it's not just women that suffer the harassment either.
No.
Men suffer it too. And I think it's important that when we as gamers see this happening, that we need to stand up and say, no, that's not acceptable. This needs to stop. If you can't play with the people that are here, then you need to leave, not them.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons why I'm actually glad I'm on this podcast and that you asked me here, is you've always been a very inclusive person yourself. Anytime that you've done things, you've always included as many people as you can into it. And it didn't matter to you what they were. This is something you've enjoyed. This is something that you've grown with, and I've been honored to be a part of it because I agree with those same things.
Hear, hear.
Thanks, Frank. All right. So does anyone want to finish up with anything else on this topic?
I would actually just like to say, for all the negativity that's going on right now, I feel we have a very positive future.
I do too.
I feel that there's a lot going on right, and there's a lot moving in the right direction. And the fact that when we started, we thought we were the only women-run podcast, and now there's like 4, 5, who knows? There's going to be more. Everyone's voices are soon going to be heard, and I just feel really good. There's a lot of bad out there, but I feel like as a hobby, we are moving in the right direction.
Right. And we didn't bring up this conversation today to dump on this hobby or the people involved in it. We love this hobby. That's why we put out this podcast every week. That's why we go and we play 2, 3, 4, 5 games a week with our friends, with strangers, with people we don't know, at game stores and things like that, is because we love this hobby and we want as many people as possible to become involved in it and to have fun with it and to look forward to going to your local game store or the local meetup and playing games with people you know and with people you've never met. So I want to thank our audience for coming today and listening to us talk on this. Does anybody have any questions for us on this particular topic? Yeah.
How should guys be interacting with girls in terms of joking? So the big problem, of course, is guys joke very aggressively with other guys, a lot of insults, a lot of put-downs in a sort of male bonding sense, but girls don't necessarily take that the same way. How do you guys expect to be treated in a mixed environment like that in terms of it's a very social, joking environment? Like, whether it be tabletop gaming or online, like, what is the expectation from your guys' side?
Well, my perspective is you wouldn't say it to your mom. Probably shouldn't say it to anybody in public. Now, honestly, what you do in your house is perfectly fine. If you've got a group of friends who bond through that level of joking, like personally for me, I don't play Cards Against Humanity. I don't want to see it played. It's just my thing. I don't find it a respectful game. But I know there's lots of people who absolutely love it. And I'm like, if you want to have a few drinks in your own home, play it. So that's kind of how I approach that, is treat other people with respect. And so with that level of joking, it's just, if you're going to joke and rib other people, just do so respectfully. Leave the language at the door. Leave the insults at the door, because there's other ways to joke than through halfway demeaning ways, speak. Yeah.
Right. And remember that if you wouldn't like someone saying it to your mother, your sister, your aunt, if you would get offended because someone said that to someone you love, then don't say it to someone else. Treat people the way you want to be treated. If you want to be treated with respect, treat other people with respect. That's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
To follow up with that, since I know this guy, and I know the circle of friends he's specifically talking about, I am the girl in that crowd. So sometimes they're joking with me a little bit aggressively, but it's how they would joke with each other because they're inviting me in. So it's not necessarily to, like make it offensive to me or something like that. It's more of like a way to bond with me. And like, to me, I'm like, whoa, like too far. And they're just like, whoa, we were just trying to include you in our language. And it's just like, well, F you guys, but
yeah. Well,
like,
and that's what it comes down to sometimes is
boundaries.
And sometimes you have to speak up, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to say, hey, this may be how your group of friends talks and how you bond, but when you're around me or whoever it is, don't do it that way, because it isn't respectful. And so, I don't want to say there's just a gender divide in the way people bond.
Right.
But if you got someone who is different, regardless of how they're different, you've got to be aware. And sometimes it does take saying something, because they may not be aware. Because people grow up and they're like, this is the norm. Yeah. And norms are there for a reason, so we know how to behave in society. But there are times that the norms need to change.
And to be fair, the things that they would say, they don't mind saying to their mom.
Wow.
Because their moms are that way too. So that's why it's difficult. Like, these are a rough batch of guys. These are like the troll people. Like, on the internet. These are my friends. So I've definitely toughened up with them. But they are respectful. They aren't mean. There is a line that they don't cross. But sometimes, with me, it's like I'm a little bit more sensitive, so I have to remind them.
So
hey,
sometimes
guys,
you have to draw the line.
And
make it, bright yellow. Everybody knows where it is.
And also there are times, too, that as you get to know somebody better, you can sort of relax things a little bit. You know that they're joking. You know that what they're trying to do is done in a humorous light. So you can sort of stretch that a little bit. But that takes time, and it's not something you would do immediately when you meet somebody. Which was one of the nice things about board gaming is you actually spend an hour or two or sometimes 5 or 6 with someone, and you can really get to know that person. And if they start to feel comfortable around you, then those boundaries can be lowered a little bit, and you can start to relax a little more. But I agree with other people. If you're just meeting somebody, if you're just talking to them, be respectful at first and get to know that person before you kind of dive into those areas.
Yeah, especially if you're in a public place. Now, if you're being invited over to someone's house and you don't like that environment, at that point you might want to say, okay, maybe that's not the environment for me. I don't want to be in that situation. Because, if it's someone's house, that is their domain. But if you're out in public, that is definitely where you need to curb over-enthusiasm and things like that for the good old boys type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I have a comment on this.
Sure.
Please.
I feel like there's a larger issue here that's kind of the subtext of what he said. I feel like there's the issue here that these guys have this space and now women are invading it, so how are they supposed to act? And I think that's very true in the gaming community. Men have traditionally males do the gaming. Now what do we do that these women are invading it? And I think that that's part of what needs to change. It needs to be seen as a shared space. It's not us invading their space. And that's why some of these behaviors need to change.
No, I agree with you 100%. Inclusivity is very important in this hobby, and it's important in a lot of other areas too, but especially in board gaming. Notice there's not a whole lot of us here. Even in some of the larger conventions I've been to, you still see that kind of cliquish behavior, and you still see occasionally those men that are doing things and they sort of push women out. What we need to do as a community is show that the women are welcome, that it doesn't matter who you are, that this is a hobby that everybody can enjoy, and that there's a seat for you at the table.
And not just women, but anybody who doesn't fit the normal description. Women, LGBTQ,
transgender.
Yeah, transgender. Anybody who doesn't fit, the normal stereotypical gamer,
which is unfortunately just still the white man. I mean, honestly, it's the older white men. And following on that, I follow somebody on Twitter who wants to get into the war games. She really wants to get into war games, and she is just met with all kinds of oppositions. Because when you think of the good old boys club, that is the good old boys club. And no, women are not there unless they're, I don't know, serving drinks. I don't know. I can't say I have an interest in war games, but I try to support her because it's what she wants to do. And so she's trying to find ways. I think she's even talking about doing some YouTube work on just trying to teach other people.
Is this Katie?
Yeah, Katie.
Katie's Game Corner.
Yeah.
She's doing a YouTube channel now.
And she just wants to teach people that wargaming is not scary, so she's going to break it down so that more people can get into it, because unfortunately there is still that real big divide. This is the man's world, not a woman's world, but you're right. It's about sharing the space. There's room enough for all of us, and it doesn't need to be all closed doors. And so I don't know the solution to all of it other than, again, it's being aware. And it's sometimes helping these guys realize that there's more out there. There are intelligent women out there who can play these games. It's possible.
And likewise, there's nothing that says that men can't have a get-together with their male friends and sit down and play games.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that says that women can't get together with their women friends and get together to play games. I have hosted role-playing game sessions at my home where I told my husband, go take a powder because this is a girls' night. and I did invite Frank. And, and sometimes we just want to get together with our friends of a specific gender. More often than not, I'm happy to have everybody over and come and play.
And I think it's really about actively making our public shared spaces as inclusive as possible. Mm-hmm. Again, we can't change what anybody does or wants to do in their own home because that is their own home. But if you're at a convention and you're running a game and 4 guys come and 1 girl comes, you got to make them all feel welcome. And I appreciate what Frank does. He's willing to teach anybody, and that's fantastic. So like I said it before, I think we're heading in the right direction, but you're right. There's still a lot of progress to go in a lot of the areas. And yeah.
I think that also extends to the game publishers, the game store owners. There's another big convention going on right now in Philadelphia called PAX Unplugged. And one of the people I follow on Twitter tweeted out, game publishers, it's not cool to give guys promo cards and girls coupons. Girls want the promo cards too, and I'm sure that some of the guys are going to want coupons to get discounts on the games. So, but it's important that when we see that happen, we call it out, not in a way that's mean and pound it over their heads, but call it out because they may not realize that what they're doing is not cool.
Yeah, I've also heard with that, one woman said she was with a couple of guys. They were at a convention. They went up to a booth or something, and the person behind the counter just started talking to the guys. Completely just ignored her. Completely.
I've seen that happen to me too. I'd be up at the counter. I'd be up there with the game with some of my female friends, and they would immediately just focus on me when I'm actually there because she's more interested in the game than I am. And I'm trying to, give her my advice because I, play a lot of games and stuff and want to get the opinions of other people. And they're focusing on me when they really should be focusing on her.
Yeah.
Or I've also heard of stories where women have gone into game stores and game store employees either ignore them completely, or they'll walk up and say, "Are you looking for a game for your boyfriend?"
Yeah.
No, I'm looking for a game for me.
So, yeah, I think a lot of it here is education.
Exactly.
The stores definitely need to teach their employees that everybody's a customer. Everybody's equal. Now, if someone comes up and say, "Hey, I have no idea about games, I need help." Okay, help them. But if they're looking and trying to decide between Caverna and Agricola, okay, I think they know what they're doing. You don't have to say, "Hi, the party games are this way," you know.
Oh, I've seen that too.
Yeah.
That is so, it's just, it feels wrong.
It is. And you're right. Publishers, too, unfortunately, a lot of them are still the white guys that are middle-aged or above, and they've got this mindset. And so it's going to take all of us to say, hey, that mindset's not cool anymore.
Only men can invade the dungeon.
No.
No.
So yeah, it's definitely
And the women need armor too.
yeah. All over. All over.
Huzzah.
Say no to chainmail bikini.
All right. So, anything else, anybody? Anybody? Okay.
Are we going to get to some games?
Yes, we're going to play a game now. Yay. All right.
Yes, that we do have a minor celebrity in the room. The Richard that gets shouted out to a lot on the show is here, Richard Bright. He's one of our gaming pals and has taught us how to lose more games than I can shake a stick at. No, the man's good, and he teaches well. It's just he's really skilled. And you don't win unless you play against skilled people. All right, so here's the way things are going to work. What I'm going to do is...
By the way, one thing. Richard, one of my goals for 2018 is to beat you in a game. Any game. I don't care. Just beat you in a game.
Pick something really random.
It's been one of mine since I've known you. That's okay. Anyway, the way this is going to work is once we get the cards filled out, we're going to draw two names. One name is going to join Team Cathy, which will be Cathy and Frank. The other one is going to join Team Sarah, which will be Sarah and Amanda. And what I will do is I will ask a multiple choice question of each team. If the team that is asked the question gets it wrong, the other team will get a chance to steal. And each player will be eligible for a prize at the end of the two questions that I'm going to ask. They're going to be, again, multiple choice. And if one person has a higher point count than the other, they'll get to pick first. So, and as you can see, we have some lovely prizes here. Sarah scored us a couple of nice ones. We acquired several of them from Viking Hobby, and they even donated one copy of 3 Wishes. So, without further ado, let us get to the game.
Has everybody entered who wants to enter?
Last call. Okay.
need to write that down.
Yeah.
Our first contestant is Charles A. Charles A., you'll be playing with Team Cathy.
Come around this way, the long way.
And our second contestant is Charlotte Prince.
So come and sit over here with us.
All right. Welcome, both of you. Everybody get their thinking caps on? Okay. Team Cathy, since you are the home team, as in been to the convention more often, please pick a number between 1 and 10.
3.
3. Question number 3. Okay, this is geeky stuff here, of course. This one pertains to comic books. What is the highest price ever paid for a comic book? Your choices are A, $1.15 million, B, $1.75 million, or C, $2.16 million. Hobnob it between yourselves. I'll give you a few seconds. No pressure.
Oh, the 1.75, the
1.75 million. Answer B is incorrect. So, Team Sarah, your remaining choices are 1.15 million and 2.16 million. Give me your answer, please.
Okay. We're going to go with C, the 2 point something, because I can't remember numbers.
2.16 million?
Yes,
C?
2.16 million. Yes.
The comic book in question was Action Comics #1. It was the first ever appearance of Superman, and it sold for 2.16 million. Point to Team Sarah.
Probably by Nicolas Cage because he's a huge.
Okay, Team Sarah.
Okay.
Please pick a number between 1 and 9.
Do you guys, do you have a number you like?
Yes, 7.
7 it is.
7 it is. Okay. This one is a computer geek question. What year was the smiley face first used as an emoticon? Your choices are A, 1982, B, 1984, or C, 1989. Answer, please.
All right, 1984.
1984 is your answer. Answer number B is incorrect. So your choices for Team Cathy for the steal. A is 1982 and B is 1989. Or C, rather.
Yes, maybe not.
So, may I have your answer, please?
We're going to go with 1982.
1982 is correct. 1982 was the first use of the smiley face, and yes, it was the turned around typeface smiley. All right, so thank you both. Since you both got a steal, you will both be eligible. You will have to decide between yourselves who picks first. But if you come on over here and pick out your prize, thank you for playing. And let's get another couple of people down here.
Do the wave.
All right. Congratulations, Charlotte. And congratulations to Charles. You both got the steal. Okay, first player for Team Cathy is Kevin Ellingson, our very own Kevin from the con staff.
You don't need a microphone.
He'll need a microphone to get recorded.
Yeah, you could have sat back there.
Oh, I may need a microphone. Without the microphone, I need the microphone.
All right, and our second contestant is Josiah Kramer. Josiah Kramer, please come on up. Woo! And you're with Team Sarah. All right. Now then, since we went to Team Cathy first last time, we'll go to Team Sarah first this time. Team Sarah, please pick a number between 1 and 8.
What's the number?
6.
6.
Okay. All right. We're all geeks and we all like soda pop, most of us anyway. So, Team Sarah, your question is, how many servings of carbonated soft drinks does the average American drink per week, rounded to the nearest whole serving? Your choices are A, 10, B, 14, or C, 19. That's per week.
All right, we will go with 14.
14 servings of carbonated beverage per week is correct.
Yeah!
Josiah gets the point. All right. Team Cathy, between 1 and 7, please. 5. Okay. All right. Here we go. Movie collectible trivia. In U.S. dollars, in 2008, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber was put up for auction. How much did it bring? Your choices are A, $240,000, B, $350,000, or C, $1 million. May I have your answer, please?
Yeah, probably. Wait, did they say when it was sold? What year?
We will go with B.
You went with B, $350,000. $350,000 is incorrect.
Wait, let's ask
Team Sarah for the steal.
Wait. For clarification, what year was it sold?
This was in 2008.
2008.
And your choices are A, $240,000, and B, $1 million.
We're going to go with $1 million.
$1 million is incorrect. It actually sold for $240,000. Yep. So thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Josiah. Josiah, because you were the only one who scored a point, you will get first choice. Kevin will get second choice of the remaining prizes. Included in the prizes at this point left are Timelines, the diversity version, Quicks Deluxe, 3 Wishes, the Exit Room game, No Thanks, and of course is an homage to our friendly and famous leader, Firefly Flux.
Ooh.
Okay. So, yeah, drink. Yeah. Your official count is 1 at this point. All right. Our next 2 contestants are Chip Souls. Chip Souls. Are you all right, Chip? Thank you. And our next contestant is Alexia Holder. All right.
Yeah.
So
Quicks is good.
Good choice.
there are several. Yeah, Quicks is one that I think we all pretty much like. Welcome, both of you. Now then, let's see. We've had 4 questions answered, so I need a number between 1 and 6. Team Sarah first.
I thought we went last.
Oh, that's right, you did. My apologies. Okay, Team Cathy, between 1 and 6. 2. Number 2. Okay, here we go. This is a TV trivia question. On Star Trek, the original series, how many crew members served aboard the Enterprise? Is it A, 420, B, 430, or C, 440?
Well.
All right, can I have your answer, please?
430.
430 crew members on the Enterprise is correct.
Shake it off.
All right, Team Sarah, that means I need a number between 1 and 5, please.
3.
3. Okay. All right. Okay, here we go. This is a game question. All right.
Who would thought we'd have gaming questions on a gaming panel?
You never know. All right, Team Sarah, here's your question.
Okay.
How many territories are there on a risk board? A is 42, B is 47, C is 50. Tick, 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 tick.
Played Risk in like ages.
The last Risk I played was Lord of the Rings Risk.
Yeah,
It
it's
doesn't
gonna
count.
be it's gonna be completely different. Do you want to go with the less?
This is, by the way, the standard risk board, not Star Wars Risk or
I was not 50.
SpongeBob SquarePants Risk or whatever else there is. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Team Sarah, do we have an
All
answer?
right. Yes, we are going to go with B47.
B47 is incorrect. Team Cathy for the steal. Is it A, 42 or C, 50?
We are going to say 42.
The answer is 42. You are correct. All right, so Chip gets first pick, and Alexia gets second pick. And thank you very much. All right, and our last 2 contestants are going to be Devin Becker.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know him.
Devin Becker. Wait a minute, wasn't he up once already?
Our team.
No, he has to be on Cathy. Cathy. No, Cathy.
Okay.
All right.
And for Team Sarah, we have Karen Johnson. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
going down.
A little rivalry is good for a relationship.
No rivalry here, none whatsoever. Okay, we have 4 questions left. So
Well, now
please
I
may
know.
have a number between 1 and 4, Team Sarah.
Well, that's true.
Number.
Oh, yeah. Number between what?
1 and 4.
1 and 4. Pick a number. Number 1. Yeah.
Number 1.
Number 1.
All right. This is a tech question. The first cell phone was released in 1983. I think that's a 3. Yep, that's a 3. How much did it cost? A, $2,495. B, $3,995. Or C, $4,295.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Yeah, probably A. All right. Our answer is A.
A, $2,495?
Yes.
Is incorrect. Okay, Team Cathy for the steal. Is it $3,995 or $4,295?
We'll go with B.
B, $3,995 is in fact correct. It also weighed like 23 pounds, so
And those are those
Go figure.
ones you wore around the
absolutely.
Yeah.
You had to wear it in a backpack.
That's such a
All right,
obscure
so Team
question.
Cathy, final question. Pick a number between 1 and 3, please.
1.
1. Okay. This is an astronomy question, a science question. That's all right. Don't panic. Don't panic.
42.
No. In years, how long after its discovery was Pluto demoted from a planet to a dwarf planet? Your choices are A, 76 years, B, 79 years, or C, 87 years. Okay, Team Cathy, your answer on the final question.
C, 87 years.
87 years is in fact correct. It was discovered in 1930. Team Cathy for 2 points on this round. Congratulations. And that concludes our game show for today. Devin, congratulations. You get first choice of the last 2 remaining prizes. Karen, thank you for playing.
Get the last game that's up there.
And I want to thank everybody for playing our little game this afternoon. Thank you.
Oh, man.
All right, so now we're getting to the end of our episode, and this is where we normally talk about what we're looking forward to in the next couple of weeks. So, Sarah, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What have you got on your plate in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I think for everyone, we got Thanksgiving.
Definitely.
That I'm looking forward to that. We're hosting, so I think that'll go pretty well. And then thankfully with my family, everyone potlucks, so no one person's responsible for everything. So we're hosting, so we're actually not responsible for much other than cleaning up the place and putting out tables. But that'll be really nice. And then otherwise, we actually have the rest of the weekend to ourselves, which is unusual because for the last, 7 or 8 years, we've always gone to the Railroad Museum for the Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving. They do the Toy Train Holiday, and I'm part of a Lego club that does a Lego train layout, or did a Lego train layout every year. So this is the first time I actually have the Friday and Saturday to myself. And so we're going to do a lot of gaming. And probably
Excellent.
Will's going to insist on some Lego building, too, for some nostalgia factor there.
All right, Amanda, what have you got on your plate?
Black Friday. So I'm getting ready with my list of games that I want to get. And on my short list is definitely the Pandemic Legacy Season 2. And then just a lot of other random stuff. But that's pretty much my focus right now. It's just Black Friday, Black Friday, Black Friday.
Excellent.
Sales.
And Frank, what have you got on your plate?
Well, I want to try to get a couple of games off of my wall of shame, or what do you guys call that now? The wall of temporal
game space of temporal insufficiency.
Yes, the game space of temporal insufficiency. Yeah, I've tried to get a few of those games off of there. I've got a World War II remake of B-17 Queen of the Skies called Target for Today that I'd like to try to get. I've also got a copy of Comancheria that I really want to try to hit to the table, which is a reenactment of the rise and fall of the Comanche Empire. And also I'm going to go down and see some friends in Fairfield and help them celebrate Thanksgiving.
Excellent. And my friend Dwayne and Yurko are hosting a Friendsgiving this year. So Mark and I are going to that, and we're looking forward to that. And there's always good gaming at Dwayne's house. So, and then we are still, we moved in August, and we're still in unpacking mode. So we're going to be working on finishing getting unpacked so that we can get settled into our place. And then one thing that I'm looking forward to, it's a little bit further down the line, is getting this gang together at Sarah's house for some gaming.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, we're going to have a December holiday. It will be our New Year's episode, because it will actually post it, hopefully, if it all works out, on January 1st. So the weekend, Saturday before Christmas, everyone's coming to my house. We're going to record an episode, kind of like this, sans an audience, unfortunately. Not everyone can fit in my house. But we'll get together, we'll record an episode, and then we'll play some games. I'm very excited.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank you all for coming and participating in our first ever live panel and recording of our episode. It's wonderful to have faces to look at while we're recording this. Normally we're just looking at our computer monitors and Skyping with one another. We don't even get together in the same room. So thank you all for coming. Our applause to all of you for coming to our episode. Thank you. This was definitely outside our comfort zone.
So we're really glad there weren't that many of you.
but
we're happy that every single one of you's here. You've really participated. I'm just glad it wasn't like a packed room. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you. All right. And so on behalf of the entire Our Turn podcast crew, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded live before a convention audience on November 18, 2017, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford, Sarah Reed, Amanda Foster, and Frank Vicari, with assistance from our convention audience and Mark Ford. Next time, we'll discuss holiday-themed games. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail, or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Ben Sound. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 56. You can find a list of the games along with links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows in the network like The Portal, Dukes of Dice, or the Board Game Point of View by going to dicetowernetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks to the intrepid ship's engineer, another space-time continuum crisis was narrowly averted. Your official Firefly count is 1.